One small change lasts an eternity. That might sound dramatic at first, but think about it. Every major transformation in history, personal or collective, has started with a small shift, a different choice, a reframed thought. And while we often chase grand solutions, it's the small, consistent mindset changes that ultimately have the biggest impact. This is exactly what Stoicism teaches us, that we cannot control what happens to us, but we can absolutely control how we interpret and respond to it. The founder of Stoicism, Zeno of Citium, didn't start his journey from a place of comfort. He didn't sit in a palace reflecting on how to be emotionally resilient. His journey started with loss. His entire shipment of goods lost to the sea, his wealth gone in an instant. Most people would fall apart in that moment, but not Zeno. Instead, he turned inward. He asked, "What now?" And in that question, in that space between disaster and reaction, he discovered a philosophy that would echo through the centuries. Stoicism, at its core, is about understanding what you can and cannot control. It's about shifting focus away from the noise of the world and inward toward our own mind. But the beauty of this philosophy is that it doesn't ask you to ignore your emotions or pretend that nothing hurts. It teaches you how to process those emotions in a way that empowers rather than weakens you. There are modern misconceptions about Stoicism. People often think Stoics are cold, emotionally distant, or indifferent. But that's a shallow interpretation. The original Stoics weren't emotionless robots. They were emotionally aware humans who sought to master themselves. They didn't avoid emotions. They studied them, understood them, and chose not to be ruled by them. Stoicism wasn't just a personal practice, it was a public one. The very word stoic comes from the stoa porcile, a public porch in Athens where Zeno and his followers would gather to discuss philosophy. It wasn't meant for the elite or hidden behind scholarly gates. Stoicism was for everyone, slaves and emperors alike. It was a philosophy of the people, for the people. Some of the most famous Stoics in history came from vastly different walks of life. Epictetus, who began life as a slave, became one of the most revered philosophers of his time. Seneca, a brilliant Roman statesman, struggled with the politics and moral dilemmas of power, and Marcus Aurelius, an emperor of Rome, ruled with Stoic principles while managing the chaos of wars and plagues. What ties all these people together isn't what they did, but how they thought. They understood that no external force, wealth, fame, power, pain, could touch their inner fortress unless they allowed it to. They lived by the principle that perspective is everything. And in today's world, that lesson is more necessary than ever. We're constantly being fed unrealistic expectations by media and society. You need to look a certain way, earn a certain amount, hit certain milestones by certain ages. And when life doesn't align with those timelines, people fall apart. But what if, instead of clinging to these expectations, we learned to let go, to shift focus inward and ask, what can I actually control? That's where the Stoic mindset becomes a superpower. It allows us to weather life's storms with clarity and strength. It teaches us that most of our suffering doesn't come from the events themselves, but from our expectations around them. We aren't sad because something bad happened. We're sad because something bad happened that we didn't expect. It's not the rain that bothers us. It's that we forgot our umbrella. One of the most powerful exercises in Stoicism is called voluntary discomfort. It's the practice of purposefully exposing yourself to small hardships so you're prepared when bigger ones come. Sleep without a pillow, take cold showers, eat simple, bland meals. Not because you enjoy suffering, but because you're reminding yourself that you can endure it, that you don't need luxury or comfort to survive. And through that, you cultivate gratitude for the little things. This practice also helps us detach from the false belief that happiness comes from the outside. The world constantly tells us we need more money, more status, more followers. But none of those things are under our control. And Stoicism teaches that to base our happiness on things we can't control is to guarantee eventual disappointment. As Seneca once said, learning to live with less will create space in your life for the things that truly matter. When you stop chasing everything, you start noticing what was always right in front of you. A peaceful mind, a resilient spirit, the ability to say, "This is enough." And this brings us to the most essential principle in all of Stoicism, the dichotomy of control. Epictetus wrote, "The chief task in life is simply this, to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control and which have to do with the choices I actually control." It's a powerful clarity. If you can't control it, let it go. If you can, do your best. But never let your peace be held hostage by something you can't influence. And here's where it applies even to something as modern as creating content. Think about making a YouTube video. Everything up until the moment you upload is within your control. Your research, your writing, your editing. But once you hit publish, it's out of your hands. Whether it goes viral or flops, whether it gains traction or gets ignored, that's up to algorithms and audience whims. A Stoic understands this. Success isn't determined by the numbers, it's measured by the effort and intention behind the work. This same principle applies everywhere. Take the example of someone working hard for a promotion. He delivers his best work, walks into his boss's office confident, and walks out rejected. Most people would take that as a sign of failure, but maybe the company couldn't afford to promote him. Maybe someone else had seniority. Maybe the timing just wasn't right. A Stoic doesn't attach his worth to the outcome. He finds pride in the effort and patience in the process. Reframing your mindset isn't about giving up. It's about seeing the world clearly. When your goal is rooted in internal values, setbacks don't break you. They just become detours. The Stoics live by 4 key virtues: wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. Wisdom is knowing what is in your control. Courage is having the strength to face life's challenges with calm and intention. Temperance is the ability to hold back when others overindulge, to remain balanced when the world tips too far. And justice is treating others with fairness and kindness because, as the Stoics believed, we were born not for ourselves, but for each other. Nelson Mandela, during his 27 years in prison, studied the writings of Marcus Aurelius. And when he emerged and became president, instead of seeking revenge, he chose peace. He chose justice. He didn't act from emotion or resentment. He acted with stoic clarity. He moved forward and helped his nation do the same. And it's not just historical leaders. Stoic ideas are at the heart of modern psychology. Rational emotive behavioral therapy helps people challenge the irrational beliefs that cause emotional suffering, a very Stoic idea. Logotherapy teaches that meaning is the most powerful driver of the human spirit, another Stoic principle. Even in the darkest of times, if you have purpose, you can endure anything. So what can you take from this today? You can start by remembering this. You don't control most of what happens in life, but you control your reaction. You control your effort. You control your perspective. And in that control, you can find peace. Start small. One little change, one little reframing. Choose to focus less on the storm and more on how you're sailing through it. Because the ship may sink. The storm may rage. But if you've lived with purpose, with clarity, with self-mastery, then you've lived well. So take this moment to breathe, to reflect, to let go of what's outside of you, and focus on what's within. That's where the power is. That's where the change begins. If you found any value in this video, make sure to give it a like. It helps a lot more than you might think. And if you want more content like this, deep dives into philosophy, mindset, and personal growth, hit that subscribe button and join the journey. One small change, that's all it takes.